Welcome to part 3 of Brandenburg practice. Today we've done a full normal routine for me, which I've done in other videos in the past, so I'm not going to explain that. Suffice it to say that I have done some basic embouchure formation and turnaround exercises. I have done some very slow slurs, I have done some faster slurs, and I have worked on my high range on the B flat trumpet. There was some C trumpet in there as well. I've also worked on the reflection of the horn. And so I haven't played piccolo yet, but one of the best ways to get into piccolo playing for the day, or just to get more efficient at it any time of the day, is to improvise some melodies. And so that's what we're going to do today. I promised myself yesterday that I would set up my piccolo mouthpiece the new way so that I wouldn't remember that and I would just sort of play it. I remembered it, and so instead we're going to knowingly play the Schilke and the Yamaha sort of back to back. And we might play a little bit of bits and pieces of Brandenburg, but we're really not interested in trying to play the piece. We're interested in trying to get familiar with the way the horn wants to play and how we want to play it, and just kind of play around on it so that we're not too worried. You can even play actual jazz improvisation if you want to, and so we might do some of that. But we're not going to use any reverb or anything like that. I'm not going to use headphones. I'm just going to start on the Schilke because that's what the mouthpiece is set up already for. This is our V228 with the S6 back bore that we liked from yesterday. And I'm going to start with my classic C to F. If I play a C and then an F, that gives me a lot of information. I'm not sure why. It's just what I like to do. So this will be a shorter live stream. This will be a shorter video. But I will, if people are here then and they want to ask questions, I will try to answer them. Or if you're just kind of here to, put it on in the background, then I guess enjoy some made-up melodies on piccolo trumpet. I have to teach in about a half an hour, so I won't be here probably more than 20 minutes. So these aren't really melodies yet. We're just getting into the horn. I just turned on my tuner. I don't think it's actually working. Interesting. All right, well. Oh, that's because I have it plugged into aux instead of phones. Well, let's remedy that quickly. That's why it was only working on the reverb yesterday. So these little melodies are, I'm just making them up. They sound like other things because, well, it's hard to play things that you haven't heard before, right? So you can make them up, but then you're constructing them out of sort of whole cloth. And that's not really I mean, it's great if you can do that. I'm going to generally play things that sound like, Bach, or I don't know, symphonies that I know, pieces that I know. But that was pretty good. And you can hear, like, I'm not really as set up for the high register as I'd like to be, but when I improvise into it, I don't pre-set up. I'm not scared of it. I just kind of go for it, and if it works, then great. And if it doesn't, that's okay. I'll just adjust a little bit, and then I'll get it the next time. And that's kind of what you're hearing. So I'm also using the live timer to sort of determine. That was about 3 minutes ish of improvising. That might be a little off because I talked too long at the beginning, but I'm shooting for about 3 minutes. So let's fix our mouthpiece back up. And I don't know if I can reach that. Oh, that's close. Okay. Well, we shouldn't have done that. Let's put the other backbore. This was the 6. We'll put the 5 on. Yeah. Here we go. Schilke 5, and this will be the Yamaha. And we're going to do the same thing. Now I just stopped at about 4 minutes, so I'm going to wait till 7 minutes, and then I'll try to play till 10 minutes. And like I said, if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them in the in between. So let's get this guy ready to go. Got about 15 more seconds. I try to play in different styles and different keys as well, so we'll do more of that this time. Just waiting for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. A little thin. Almost. Well, we got another minute. So that was about 3 minutes. Exactly. And I don't know, I could do what I want on this backbore, mostly. It started off feeling better than the Shilky, but I don't think I played nearly 3 minutes now that I've played actually 3 minutes on this horn. This felt a lot longer. So now we're just resting. If you have questions, I'm on a 25 or 30-second delay, so ask them right away, because I'm only going to rest maybe 5 minutes before I try again, and then that'll be the end. I'll have to quit and go do trumpet class. So I'm just kind of trying to squeeze this in between. We're going to switch back, of course, but type things in the chat, please. Otherwise, it can just be dead air, and that's okay too. Oops, I saved the wrong part. Where are these backboards? Yeah. I'm not sure exactly what the difference between the 6 and the 5 backbore is, except that the 6 is a little bit bigger, a little more open, I should say. And I guess that might be an interesting thing for us to do, huh? Let's try. So we've got both backbores here, and we'll get out our hole gauge. And while we can't necessarily know, precisely what anything is, I can know if something is bigger or smaller at a certain depth. So basically I can decide, okay, so that's where it's stopping in this mouthpiece. So in this mouthpiece, does it stop there or further? And it's much further. So that means that the part that's up near the throat is more open in that mouthpiece by that much, or by that distance. Does that make sense? So that's why this backbore, this 5 backbore, feels tighter, because it is tighter in through here. And that makes it a little more efficient, but it also gives you less wiggle room. So if you like to use a lot of air, sometimes these backbores can feel really restrictive. If you're trying to play a piece like Brandenburg, you might find that it's a lot easier to play on a smaller backbore and just try not to blow so hard, because it's more efficient, but you really have to trust that system. Most people tend towards the bigger backbores because it allows them to blow harder, and then that allows them to use their air more effectively, but not more efficiently. It's just that air is a sort of unlimited resource, right? We can always breathe again and blow, breathe again and blow. And so when you use a ton of air to play, that feels good, because it's not, you're not running out of that resource. You're just replenishing it over and over again. But it can take its toll on other parts. You know, your muscle stamina and your passive pressure have to sort of increase a little bit to handle that amount of air. So it's good to be balanced, I think. You don't want to necessarily play the biggest equipment that you can. Between 6 and 5, there's only this little difference, right? But if I were to play, let's say, a 12 backbore, which I do have, I think I traded it to somebody, but I used to play a 12 all the time. It's a very, very big backbore, or versus like maybe a 3 or a 2 backbore that's very, very small. Then that's a big, big shift. And maybe for some purposes, those extremes are really valuable, so that you don't have to change the way you play. You just change the way that you're. Oh, I have a question. Yeah, you just change the equipment and you play the same way, you get a different result. Am I still doing Friday performances? Is the question, and I am. I had to skip a Friday there because I was actually out of town for a wedding. I know that it's not advisable, generally speaking, to travel right now, but I couldn't avoid it. It just was, you think, well, there shouldn't be anything you couldn't avoid, but trust me, this was something that I definitely needed to do. And so I did it, and I'm okay, so that's fine. But yes, I'm doing Friday live streams at 3 still. Mostly it's going to be just practicing like this, and certainly tomorrow, I think I'm free at 3. There's one that I'm going to have to move, and it might be tomorrow, so I'll have to check. I guess I can check right now. I'm not doing anything, right? My schedule, yeah, I should be okay to do that. Oh, I have to cut it short tomorrow, but I can start it on time. So that's the answer. We're going to start at 3 Eastern time, and then, well, whatever. I have an appointment at 5, so I have to be out of here. I'll probably cut it around the hour, 4 o'clock. but it's going to be more of the same stuff, and maybe some other stuff that my students are preparing that I'm just sort of, I have under my fingers. So we get away from Brandenburg for a little bit. But yeah, all right. So this has certainly been enough rest. Let's look at the OBS timer here. Oh yeah, 5 minutes of rest. So let's see if we can do back to the Schilke, now that we know a little bit about the difference in those back bores. That's always a fun thing to find out about. Those hole gauges I got from my dad, but you can get them at the hardware store. So back to the Schilke. And I'll try to play more sort of in the box. I played some Wagner there. I played a bunch of different things. I tend to like just quoting things because it's fun for me. But anyway, so here we go. 3 more minutes if I can do it. We'll see. So that was also, I think, 3 minutes. Boy, it sure felt like it. And that's going to have to pretty much do it for us today. Yeah, I'm okay with not getting everything that I wanted, but this is more of a ear training and sort of, I don't know what I'm about to play a lot of the time, so I can't prepare for it. You heard me sort of hammer tongue a couple of the high notes. That may be something that I have to do when I'm playing Brandenburg, so I want to have some experience with basically getting myself out of whatever situation I get into, and when I play Brandenburg, I'll be beholden to these notes on this page, right? So I should have a better experience because I know what's coming, and I can sort of decide to prepare a certain way, right? When you improvise, you also can get yourself out of a sticky situation by just playing something that you know you can get away with playing, which you heard me do there a couple of times. But I try to always push myself towards stuff that like maybe isn't comfortable, so that I know whether or not that's going to work. And you know, yeah, I sort of really pressed on my lip there, but that's part of this experience. And so, you know, the first movement of Brandenburg is 5 minutes long, and you basically have to play the whole time. So we just played 3 minutes, roughly 3 times, right? We didn't really get up to three probably on the first one, but I'm going to need to be able to play 5 minutes at a time without stopping to get through the first movement of the Brandenburg. And on these notes specifically, which there's some double high A's and a lot of high G's, and you know, at least a lot of D on top of the staff, a whole lot of that, right? So that's how I'm preparing, and I think that makes some sense. Will I be ready for Saturday rehearsal? I probably won't make it to 5 minutes then, but I have an assistant. I decided that almost immediately after the first stream. I emailed one of my students and asked if he would play all my easy notes for me so that I could rest during those. And so that's already in the works. And so yeah, I think I'll make it through the rehearsal okay, as long as we don't do really hard sections too many times in a row. And if we do, that's okay. I will just play things down an octave. I have no, you can't have any pride when it comes to things that you know you can do, but maybe only a few times. Don't try to just keep doing them. If somebody calls you on it, you just say, oh, well, that's just too hard for me. Matter of fact, right? It's true. And that can be harder to do in the moment, especially when they're saying, come on, you've got to do this. You know, you don't. Not if it's going to hurt you and then therefore hurt the performance. So anyway, that's my soapbox of the day. And this has been the third practice session of Brandenburg 2. We didn't actually play any Brandenburg, but this is just to get our piccolo chops in really great shape. And I feel better about that. I could still choose either horn over the other, but now it doesn't seem to much matter. And I'll have a month to figure out which horn I really want to play it on. So I really just need to be comfortable on both horns for Saturday. And that we've done. So anyway, thanks for joining me. And yeah, please come tomorrow and every Friday. And even after Brandenburg, I'm still going to try to do Friday Masterclass. So I'll advertise them more. I haven't been advertising them because I haven't had any guests on recently, you know, anybody to play. But if you want to play, please feel free to come on and do that. And I would love to have you. So anyway, ta-ta.